Good morning, Steve Jolly with Benchmark Realty, and I want to welcome you to the Music City Show. Thank you guys for tuning in this morning. We've got a great show lined up for you, and so I want to go ahead and get a jump start on that and dive right in. So the first thing I want to talk about today is where you're going to find massive growth in Greater Nashville. So this is a continuation of last week's talk where I was sharing with you these monster-sized trends that are being accelerated by the crisis we're in right now, and what that means for Nashville. So I wanted to share with you where the growth is already projected in Nashville. Not that it's going to change much of that growth, but it's going to accelerate. It's going to probably make it happen faster. It may even increase the amount of growth we get in that area if we start attracting people from other parts of the country. So let's first take a look at the county level where we're seeing growth projections, and then we'll take a look at the city level, and then we'll talk about some strategy behind that. And then we'll get to the market update. Sounds good? All right. So these are 20-year county growth projections. And this information came from the Boyd Center for Business and Economic Research at the University of Tennessee. So the first thing you want to know, this is broken down by county in Middle Tennessee. So Davidson County is expecting a 14% growth rate. It doesn't seem much when you compare it to some of those other counties, but 14% of Nashville is almost 100,000 people. So that's a pretty significant number. So we'll dive in where in a minute, but let's talk about some of these other counties first. So Rutherford County, 48% increase. Rutherford County, I think, is really going to be the big winner. That's over 150,000 people added over the next 20 years. So that's huge. Williamson County, huge too, 48%. Another one, it's over 100,000 people added to it. And Montgomery County is going to be the third one. And that is also another 100,000 people. So you've got 4 counties right there that are going to be adding 100,000 people in the next 20 years in our area. That's pretty huge. But that doesn't mean the other counties are slackers either. So Sumner County, 30% increase. Wilson County, 40% increase. And those right there are really the big ones. You also see Murray County expected to go 27%. Robertson, 19%. Dixon, 16%. And Cheatham County, 4%. So let's look at, so these are the county growth projections. So let's kind of dig a little deeper and talk about strategy a little bit. Especially if you want to invest, or especially if you want to buy a home that you want appreciation in and you want to maximize that as much possible. So let's talk about the big four. So we're going to kind of break it down to the city area. So the big four is going to be Murfreesboro and Smyrna. Those are the two big areas that are expected to grow the most in Rutherford County. And these are ordered based on the number of growth, so the amount of people that are growing. So actually Murfreesboro, Smyrna, Rutherford, and Williamson County are expected to grow a little bit more than Nashville. But Franklin and Nolensville are the big areas in Williamson County that are expected to grow. In Nashville, I'm going to say suburban Nashville is expected to grow more than the downtown area. Clarksville up in Montgomery County rounds out the top 4. So if you are wanting to buy, and we'll look at the next 3 here in a second too. So if you're wanting to buy, to invest, or even to, for your own self, for your own family, buy a home for you guys to live in, and you want appreciation and you want nice things around entertainment, retail, restaurants, shopping, these are the areas to go. And so, but what if you don't want to live in a suburban area? Then I would find a rural area that you like that's somewhere around these big 4 or the next 3. If you want to be close to these, you'll ride on the coattails of these cities in these rural areas, and that's really good too. So let's look at the next 3. Outside of the big 4, the next 3 are Mount Juliet, Lebanon. And a lot of these aren't a big surprise if you're from Nashville or if you're in real estate, because you've seen these grow. But these trends are being accelerated now because of COVID. Hendersonville, Gallatin, Columbia, Spring Hill. So these are the cities and towns in those counties that are expected to grow the most, and where I would recommend, if you're wanting to buy, if you're wanting to invest, if you're wanting to find a place where you can live that's going to appreciate, and you're going to have things in the area that you want to do, these are the places where I would look to buy. And if you already own a home in these areas, well, that's good news for you too, because you're already set ahead. So my strategy here would be to, if you if you want to be in a suburban area, pick one of these cities that fits you and your lifestyle. But if you don't necessarily want to be in the city, you want to be more in a rural area, you want a little bit more land, a little bit of peace and quiet, you don't want to be right up on your neighbors, then find a rural area that's adjacent to one of these city areas. That would be my recommendation, because that's where the growth is going to happen. And when there's growth, there's more demand. And when there's more demand, you get higher prices. And so if you're worried about price appreciation and you want your investment to grow to its most potential, this is where I would look. All right, that sounds good. So let's take a jump in and look at the market update for the week. This week is a little bit different because we had Memorial Day weekend in here. And so we have to consider that in all these numbers. That essentially cut out one whole day of closings for us. So 20% of our closings disappeared this week. And then also, listings. A lot of people don't like to list over holiday weekends because there's the showing traffic goes down. And when you first list, it's important to have as many eyeballs on your property as you can, because that is the most valuable time that you're on the market, that first 2 or 3 weeks. So sales, the trend still is running flat. We are about 30% down from last year. But I expect as more of these sales roll in and get added to the database, the MLS, this number will shrink somewhat. It'll probably be closer to 15 to 20% short from last year. So we need, that's one area that we've been consistently down in for the last 2 months is sales. And I think the main driver behind that is listings. So we'll talk a little bit about that next. Let's talk about new listings. The trend still is increasing, although we took a big decrease this week because of Memorial Day. And what I just explained to you is that people don't list their home on Memorial Day weekend. It's because they're out shopping, they're out on vacation, they're out having fun, doing outdoor stuff, they're at the lake. So, the last thing people want to do, unless you have to buy a home, unless you're a super serious buyer, is to go buy real estate. So people will usually do it the week before or the week after. So I would expect a little pickup this week or next week's numbers. But we do need more listings if we're going to keep this economic engine rolling. And real estate is 25% of the GDP across the nation, and probably a little bit more here in Nashville. So we need new listings coming on the market. So if you're thinking about selling, you need to do plan, give me a call. Showings. Showings were down a little bit from last week, although the trend is still on an increasing trajectory. So we are still showing a lot of houses. We're still above where we were last year, although we do need more listings. That's going to be the one thing that pulls all these numbers down. So showings are up and our trend is still increasing. And look here at the pendings, or the homes that are going under contract. Once again, still on an increasing trend. We were basically flat over last week. We put over 15 homes under contract last week. That's huge. Those are big numbers. And we're significantly above where we were at this time last year. Like I said a minute ago, that can only continue as long as we have listings. This will eventually start to wither away if we don't continue to have new listings hitting the market week after week. Right now, we have more new listings that are hitting than there are homes going under contract. So we still have a little bit of cushion, but it's getting pretty thin. So we really need to keep that in mind. All right, so if you like these graphs and charts and you want to get more information on those, or maybe you want to watch a replay of this program, just go to musiccityshow.com. You'll find interactive charts, graphs, all this information, and you'll find this show and the shows from the last several weeks. musiccityshow.com is where you should go. And next, I want to give you kind of a sneak peek into next week. And this is something that people aren't really even talking about in Nashville. But because we're talking about growth and massive growth, there's always a chance that might happen, that might not happen, right? There's always things that can get in the way of that massive growth happening. So what we're going to talk about next week is the biggest threats to Nashville's long-term growth. And the number one threat I hardly ever hear anybody talking about. And so we're going to do our part to make sure more of you are aware of it so we can make the changes that need to be made for the best of Nashville and for the betterment of all of the people that live in Middle Tennessee. So I want to thank you guys for tuning into the Music City Show. If you have any questions, You can text me. You can call me at 615-257-9996. It's that number right there below on the screen. Otherwise, take care. Have an awesome day. And peace and love, y'all.